Chapter 1 The Strip, Las Vegas, Nevada, July 2017. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, the sign on the bus stop read. Cliché, Michaela thought. As her eyes traveled down Las Vegas Boulevard, glancing at the groups of tourists, the city's allure enticed more than 40 million visitors annually. But she was not ready to anoint it the city where her deepest secrets were left behind. On the corner of East Tropicana Avenue and South Las Vegas Boulevard, she stood quietly, taking in the view. The sun was bright outside, causing her to squint, and the subtropical hot desert climate had her fanning her face with her hand. The environment had her a bit uncomfortable and out of her element. Out of the corner of her eye, something grabbed her attention and rerouted her thoughts. "Wow!" she blurted out as she stared in awe at the 45-foot bronze Leo the Lion statue in front of the MGM Grand Casino. Her eyes traveled the length of the largest bronze sculpture in the Western Hemisphere, assessing every inch of its exquisite design. Unfortunately, a disagreement between two individuals that were standing behind her temporarily interrupted her thoughts. "This will not turn into a problem, I promise. Just let me talk to her. She's a little upset right now. I treat y'all good and take good care of y'all. I can't believe she says she's not happy." Michaela glanced over at the couple on the corner, who was in a heated discussion. The woman was animated, talking with her hands. The man nodded his head calmly, trying not to draw any unnecessary attention. "You're right, baby. You've been good to us. Just let me talk to her. I will straighten her out," the woman pleaded. She was dressed in a white tube top and a skimpy blue miniskirt. The outfit screamed, "I'm open for business." "I only want what's best for y'all. Please handle it," the man demanded. He was casually dressed in a pair of blue jeans and a Ralph Lauren polo shirt, and spoke in a caring tone, but clearly was agitated. Noting the piercing eyes and irritated expression of the young woman, perhaps due to her eavesdropping, Michaela directed her focus back to Leo the Lion statue. "That's a beautiful piece of art, isn't it?" The question came from Michaela's right side. The voice was soft-spoken, barely audible. Her eyes never left the statue. A tap on her shoulder made her flinch. She rolled her eyes. "The nerve of some people," she thought, as she prepared for her personal space to be invaded. "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I was just trying to get your attention," the guy said as he moved closer. Michaela took a deep breath and looked to her right with a contorted face. She was heated and it had nothing to do with the 110 degrees of dry heat outside. But as soon as she opened her mouth to express her displeasure, she encountered a tall, handsome gentleman with a lean frame. He was dressed in a black suit with a silk paisley scarf wrapped around his neck. His skin was smooth and he sported a razor-shaped goatee. "You didn't scare me. You surprised me. Not that it makes much difference, but to answer your question, yes, that is a beautiful work of art. I love lions. My zodiac sign is a Leo," Michaela said as she adjusted her attitude. As he walked closer, his Jimmy Choo cologne lingered in the air and had her nose tingling. The seductive lavender and fresh honeydew blend scent pleased her nostrils and made her smile. He chuckled at her reaction. "So you say you're a Leo? Well, according to my horoscope, Leos are who I'm most compatible with. Up until today, I didn't believe it. Hi, my name is Daniel." Michaela shook Daniel's outstretched hand. There was something about his demeanor that had her at ease. His engaging smile and baby-faced features enticed her. His innocent-looking eyes removed the small amount of apprehension she held. She liked the way he laughed, and the smell of the cool mint-flavored Mentos he was chewing. His first impression was intriguing. "Nice to meet you, Daniel. I'm Michaela. I'm not into the horoscope thing, but if you say we're compatible, then I will have to take your word for it. What's your sign?" Daniel's eyes traveled up and down Michaela's yellow sundress. The dress clung to her body, revealing every curve and crevice of her 5'6" athletic frame. A flicker of a smile appeared as he scanned her long, lustrous hair, brown eyes, and deep dimples. A look he seemed to be fond of, because his eyes had never looked away. "I'm a Gemini. We're some of the best lovers and conversationalists in the world, I've been told," he said, finally breaking the silence. Michaela smirked. "Well, all the Geminis I know are crazy," she said with a note of laughter in her voice. Daniel shook his head. "You know, I love a woman with a sense of humor." Both stood in silence. They examined each other closely. Their eyes traveled from the top of their heads down to the bottom of their feet. In a split second, inventory was taken. It was amazing what the mind could do when motivated. Michaela tried to play it cool, despite the tingle between her legs. It had been a long time since a man had intrigued her enough to make her moist down there. "Don't get quiet on me now," Daniel said after watching Michaela get lost in her thoughts.
For a moment, Michaela's eyes were hypnotized by Daniel's complete package. His voice snapped her out of a trance. You know, it's crazy how far Las Vegas has come. A desert was turned into a town for gamblers and thrill seekers. Now that's what I call progress, she said. The change of topic was needed for Michaela, but it was true. Bugsy Siegel's vision of creating a notorious gambling operation in the middle of the desert had finally come to fruition. Las Vegas was now one of the world's top revenue earners. It's amazing, isn't it? I moved here years ago chasing that same excitement, but after a couple of years, I realized this place is like any other vacation spot. After the honeymoon is over, you are back to facing the hustle and bustle of a resort town, Daniel said. If you feel that way, then why are you still here? Michaela's pointed question made Daniel cut his eyes at her. It took a few seconds for him to collect his thoughts and respond. Believe it or not, I was once an amateur boxer. I had my share of fights, but I eventually gave it up. My heart was not into it. The training was too rigorous for me, but I loved everything else about the sport. The large crowds and excitement intrigued me. He paused to see if she was still listening. When he saw her nod her head, then he continued. To make a long story short, a promoter ended up offering me a position as an intern for his promotional company, and the rest is history. He pulled a business card out of his pocket and handed it to Michaela. Michaela glanced down at the card. Kellerman Promotions, LLC, CEO, Daniel Kellerman. Boxing promoter? I pegged you for a fashion model or an overdressed stripper. I was confused. Daniel laughed out loud. An overdressed stripper. Now that's a new one. I've been mistaken for a lot of things, but never that. But anyway, what brings you to my city? I'm here on vacation. A well-needed one, I must add. I had to get away from the job for a couple days to recharge my batteries. What do you do for a living, if you don't mind me asking? I'm a second-generation real estate investor. I buy and flip houses. Oh, sort of like Pimp My Ride, but with houses. Michaela chuckled. Yeah, something like that, but I replace Exhibit. Speaking of Exhibit, he will be here on Saturday night to host the after-party for my event at Club Dries. What event? Michaela said, as she put her hand on her hip and raised her left eyebrow. Daniel licked his lips as he watched Michaela's hand placement separate her flat stomach from her curvy backside. There was a gleam in his eye as he stared. Look up, he said, pointing in the direction of a sign on the side of the MGM. Michaela's eyes followed his finger. There was a banner for 3 world title fights on Saturday night, promoted by Kellerman Promotions on the side of the building. I would love for you to come out and watch some of the best boxers in the world perform. I'll give you a free ticket. If you want to do something different while you're here, then this should be it. Michaela pushed her fingers through her hair several times. She was in full contemplation mode. He had her attention. I appreciate the offer, but my girlfriends are flying in later today. We're going to explore the Strip and the Vegas nightlife for the weekend. Michaela stayed focused on her original plans. The viewing of the casinos and neon-soaked Strip intrigued her. Throw in the restaurants, music, comedy, and circus-style acts, then her free time is going to be limited. You can bring your friends with you. Y'all can sit together on ringside with me. It would be my pleasure to be your host. Michaela took a deep breath. The offer was enticing. Spicing up the offer by inviting her friends was a smart move by Daniel. She was running out of excuses, and she knew it. Let me think about it, she said, looking down at his business card. I have your number. I will call you and let you know. Michaela's attempt at playing hard to get seemed to leave Daniel discombobulated. He stared at her for a second, while he rubbed his goatee. Her indecisiveness concerning his offers seemed to mess with his ego. He shook his head and moved the conversation along. Hey, before you go, let me ask you something. We've been talking all this time, and I still don't know where you're from. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I told you. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Daniel nodded his head. Atlanta, huh? Atlanta's a nice city. I signed 2 fighters from there, and they are turning out to be quite the technicians in the ring. He paused, then threw a left jab, straight right combination in the air and continued. But that doesn't surprise me, because the state of Georgia has always produced good boxers. Evander Holyfield, Robert Allen, Vernon Forrest, Paul Williams, Benny Briscoe, and Ezzard Charles. All came out of Georgia. I mean, I can go on and on. I don't know any of those guys. Well, I wouldn't expect you to. Casual fans only know the popular boxers. Who said I was a casual fan? I know Oscar De La Hoya, Miguel Cotto, Floyd Mayweather, and Roy Jones. Daniel silently laughed to himself. What's so funny? Everyone you called out was part of the most popular group during their era. What about Felix Trinidad, Winky Wright, Pernell Whitaker, James Troney, Antonio Tarver, and Prince Nassim Hamed? Same era. Who? Daniel rubbed the back of his head. Casual fans never think that they're casual until they're presented with facts. Okay, you made your point, but as far as Atlanta goes, I'm ready to relocate. Michaela changed the topic back to Atlanta. She knew when to wave the white flag. Why? Is the shortage of real men getting to you? He said, smirking. No, she said, laughing out loud. The city is becoming overcrowded. Yeah, that's what I heard. Everybody is moving there. The property is affordable and the cost of living is reasonable. Atlanta had become the new mecca of entertainment, and people relocated there to be part of the city's growth. Rappers, singers, movie stars, and ball players made the city their new residence. The city was becoming the new melting pot of the South. Daniel glanced down at his watch, then back up at Michaela. Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, Michaela. You have my card. Please call me if you need anything while you're here. It was a pleasure to meet you, Daniel, Michaela said, looking down at the card. Mr. Kellerman, you will hear from me sooner than you think. I hope so, Daniel said as he walked away smiling.